Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 things that we learned from Bradford City 2 Morecambe FC 2. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try to hit 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well on our 6 talking points that we do go on to discuss down in the comment section down below. I am today joined by Korban once more. And we'll start out then, we'll get straight in to box number one. Probably the player who's come away with the biggest talking point from yesterday's game is the man who played the least amount of minutes. It's a red box for Emmanuel Osadibe. He was given an opportunity by Graham Alexander with Jamie Walker and Alex Patterson both missing this one through injury. He got the nod, he got the start in what he thinks is his best position, his best role as a central midfielder, as a number 8, and he was absolutely shocking. He was nowhere near a man defensively. He got bullied off the ball countless times by former bantam Jan Songo. His ability to pass the ball was poor. He just kept giving the ball away, and it was like we were playing with 10 men, and it's been a long time since I think we've seen such a one-sided argument for a player not deserving to be in the Bradford City side. I think maybe Ash Taylor on the opening day against Crawley after his performance there, but even then I still don't think that was as bad as what I saw on social media yesterday for Osadibe, because I don't think anyone would even bat an eyelid if he never played a single minute for the football club. And the fact we paid a fee for Emmanuel Osadibe, Ryan Spike said last season that if he didn't get his injury, he got 10 goals and 10 assists, and I'd be lucky if he gets 10 more minutes on a football pitch, to be honest with you. I simply do not think he's good enough to play for Bradford City. There was a moment in the first half where he had the ball and he just stood still. He didn't want to play the ball forward. He must have waited about 10, 15 seconds, and then he passed the ball straight to a Morecambe player right on the halfway line and gave them another counter-attacking opportunity. And I just don't think he is good enough to play for Bradford City. I'll be surprised if any team really wants to take a gamble on him in January. He's kind of like someone who we might be stuck with, to be honest with you now, because who in their right mind would want to go out and get Osadibe? I mean, even if we didn't get a transfer fee in for him and we just let him go and we decided to cut our losses, who would really take Osadibe? Because I don't think he's good enough to play in League Two. I don't think there'll be many teams will take him in the National League because he's such, I think a liability is probably the best way to describe it, because you don't mind your forward players trying different things, but every now and again they have to come off, and it just doesn't really work out for Osadibe. He had a number of shots, and a lot of them really flattered to deceive. There was an opportunity as well in the first half where he actually took the ball off of Andy Cook inside the penalty area. I think his shot went straight at the keeper. He had another shot from outside the box from about 20, 25 yards, which went right into the top of the TL Dallas stand, and he had a really, really poor first half. I think a lot of people would have been surprised if he didn't get subbed off at halftime for obviously Clark Ador, who came on and had a much better impact. Obviously ended up scoring our first goal as well. And I just think the amount of options that we got, no matter how good Osadibe is in training, he is not good enough to be playing week in, week out for Bradford City. And obviously at the moment with Walker probably going to be out a little bit longer term than what we thought. Alex Patterson, because it's a reoccurring injury, probably again going to have to be very, very cautious with him. Osadibe is kind of technically on paper the next best option, so we are going to have to start playing players in there not very so natural positions. But Ador has been very effective in there. I thought Chapman's done quite well in there in the AFL Trophy. Bobby Poynton is certainly someone who could play in there as well, and Kevin McDonald maybe as well. But I think if you had Smallwood, McDonald and Gilead, that's maybe a little bit too defensive for me. But Osadibe yesterday was really, really poor, and we're going, unfortunately, are going to have to start out with a red box.
I think it was right up there with the worst performance I've seen. Adivra, who indecisive. He won't track him back. And the problem is with a player, when we played a system we play with a high pressing and the quick turnovers that we missed Jamie Walker, and that was clear to see. He won't put in any effort into track back or to win the ball high up the pitch, and then the whole system breaks down. The midfield were way too open. Too many times we got carved open like a Christmas turkey, and that was his fault. And I don't like blaming a performance and drop points on one player or one referee or just a couple of players, but it was down to him today, because that first half we definitely would have had more control of the game, and we wouldn't have conceded as many chances as Morecambe got. That Cook chance when he got in the way of him, I said it at the time, and I'm going to say it again, it reminded me, he's just a player who just reminds you of a friend who's not invited to the party. He's always in the way. He's always too eager to impress, and he's just got nothing to offer. And for me, what do you do with him? Just release him. It's exactly what's wrong with a club. You're not going to make a profit off him, so just let him go. But we won't do that. And like I say, we'll just be stuck with him until his contract runs out at the end of the season. And he obviously won't want to play. But I don't know what his level is, because he's had bad criticism everywhere he's been, and he's got it here as well. So I can't see him playing, like I say, another 10 seconds for this club.
Yeah, I mean, we have had definitely some poor recruitment over the last couple of years, but Osadebe, for me, he is right up there, and it's such a shame because last year in pre-season, he looked really, really good, but since then, he's just been so poor. He had a little bit of a purple patch under Kevin McDonald where he scored a couple of goals, but apart from that, he has been really, really poor for us, and like I say, I would certainly not bat an eyelid, wouldn't lose any sleep if he was never to play for this football club ever again. But we'll move on then to box number 2. We'll go a little bit more positive with this one. It's a yellow box for Lewis Richards. Now, Richards has not really been someone we spoke about too much as of recent. We gave him quite a lot of praise earlier on in the season, but recently we've not really spoke about him all too much. So I wanted to give him a box because I thought he started out the game quite shaky, some poor crosses or poor decision-making, sloppy passes, and then defensively got caught out a couple of times, but I thought he grew into the game, in my opinion. There were some occasions where he just didn't really want to seem to try and take a man on. And I actually heard Graham Alexander scream at him at one opportunity as well, where he just didn't take his man on for some reason. I don't know if it's because maybe he's used to having Walker in and around him and, they can have that link-up play down there. But he just seemed a little bit... I don't know, maybe lost is the right word. Richards didn't quite seem himself yesterday. And there was a comment on the video recently saying that they don't understand how Richards gets into the team. But for me personally, he's still much better than Liam Rideout, especially as a wing back. And I think there is clearly a player in Lewis Richards. You've got to remember, he's still very young. There's lots of time for him to grow and develop. And I think I'm right in saying we paid a little bit of money for Lewis Richards. So we've got to stick with him. And I certainly don't think he was bad whatsoever. I don't think he was at fault for either of the goals. Obviously, the first one is just an unfortunate deflection that does come off of Emmanuel Sadebe, like we've just mentioned there. And then the second goal is just poor from, I think Platt should do better to stop the cross, and then the midfielder who scores for Morecambe runs off of the back of Smallwood, so I think he should have tracked that better. But Richards, for me, I think has certainly had better games, but he certainly had a lot worse. There was a shot as well that he did, I think, in the first half where, I mean, it literally hit the top of the TL Dallas sign. It was a really, really poor attempt. And I don't mind players shooting, but you've got to at least get it somewhere near the goal. And that nearly went out of the stadium. But Lewis Richards, for me, I don't think he was awful. Don't think he was a world beater though, and that's why I've gone with the yellow, because I thought there were a couple poor moments that he made in the game, and I wanted to just speak about Lewis Richards because we've not really spoke about him all too much recently.
Do you know how old he is, Richards?
I would say between 20 and 24, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, well, he's one of those players who judging by that age, he probably can improve, and I think his crossing is definitely an area that he'll need to work on, because he's quite good at getting 1v1 in his man, and then he gets wide of him, and he's crossing sometimes a bit too flat. So if he can work on that, something that he needs to work on defensively. I think he does look a bit weak and a bit suspect at times, but yeah, he's much better than what we've had in recent years. He's better than Rideout, so I don't think it's an area where we need to improve in January. And like I say, if we can improve him, maybe we might actually make a profit on him. I don't know, but he's definitely a player that can develop under Alexander.
Yeah, I think especially because of his age, and we seem to have a coach who actually is finally going to start developing the players. I certainly think Richards will get better and better, and I think it helps that we've looked so solid defensively for the large part over the last couple of matches since Alexander has come in. But like I said, there were a few iffy moments from Lewis Richards yesterday, and I think he actually put the cross in near the end of the game for Andy Cook, which unfortunately did come back off the crossbar. So there is clearly a player in Lewis Richards. I just thought yesterday he was a little bit inconsistent for me. We'll move on then to box number 3. The first green box of today's video is for Kieran Kelly. I would probably say yesterday was his best performance in a Bradford City shirt. I would go as far as to say he was my man of the match yesterday. I thought he was absolutely excellent. The amount of recovery, challenges he was making defensively, so solid. He's so strong as well. He looks so much better under Graham Alexander. I thought the start of the season under Mark Hughes, he looked a little bit off it, in my opinion. There were countless times where he was making really, really poor decisions. But for me personally, his last couple of matches making one of the first names on the team sheet, and I thought he had a really, really solid game against Morecambe. For how much he's come on under a new manager, it's great to see as well, because there were at one point where he probably slipped down from being third choice centre half down to maybe fourth or fifth. So it's great to see him come back into the side and really performing now. And it's very rare that you get left-footed centre halves these days. So he obviously gives a good balance into the side. I think his technical ability is quite good. He's obviously an absolute man mountain as well, so that helps us defensively. But he's quite quick as well for his size. And I think sometimes when he has to defend 1v1 in the wide areas, when Richards has gone too far up the pitch, I think he does that quite well, to be honest with you. And I thought overall it's a really, really solid game from Kieran Kelly and deserves a green box for me. I thought he was brilliant defensively.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was one of the only defenders that were properly switched on in that first half. A few of them got caught out a bit, E1, and like you say, his recovery pace, it scared me. I didn't see that coming at all when he were tracking back and doing those brilliant slide tackles. He's got the passion that I like about him as well. Probably that comes from a bit of his Irish blood in him, but he's probably one of my favourite players, to be honest, because I like that what he's got. He's got that a bit of leadership. I think he's only 25. I thought he was younger, to be honest, but yeah, really good on the ball. Gives a bit of balance to the back line with him being left-footed, like you say. You don't get many of them. And his cross for Holiday was it was sublime. It was a peach of a cross, and it's just one that you dream for as a player waiting for that ball in the penalty box. And I think he is, like I say, he's made himself one of the first team named on the team sheet. There was one game I really liked him under use. I can't remember what game it was. I don't know if it were Colchester, but that there were one that were really good of Kelly's that I thought there's a player in there. And then, like I say, he looked a bit rash, a bit poor with his decision making. But now under Alexander, another player has gone up a notch. So it's good to see that you get those partnerships forming. And yeah, definitely one of the 4 players at the minute.
Just on that cross as well, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. It's almost indefendable as well, because it was whipped in with such velocity, but it dropped in such an awkward area for a defender to try and clear, because it was far too low for anyone to try and header it. If you go with any other body part then apart from your foot, it might end up in the back of the net. And even if you go with your foot, you could well end up slicing it. So it was really, really hard for the defender. And it was a great finish from Halliday as well. That is not an easy finish whatsoever, but it was great to see both our wide centre-halves pushing on. Tompkinson did it quite a lot in the first half, supporting Halliday, or I certainly noticed it a lot more. Then in the second half, in the last 10 minutes or so, when Kelly was bombing on, again, brilliant cross into the box. And like I say, one of his best performances in a Bradford City shirt. My personal man of the match yesterday, and that is why we've gone with a green box for Kieran Kelly. We'll move on then to box number 4. This time it is another yellow box, and I've gone with Clark Ador. Now, this one might be a little bit controversial. You might disagree. If you do, let us know down in the comment section down below. But Ador, for me, obviously came on at half-time for Emmanuel Osidibe, playing in that number 8 role, and I thought it took him 5 or 10 minutes to really get into the game. There were a couple of occasions where he got caught out trying to be too casual with his game, and I think defensively he's quite weak, and obviously physically he's not the biggest, so he does kind of get pushed off the ball a little bit, and we've not really had that from someone in our midfield. You think Walker, for his size, he certainly gets stuck in. So does Patterson. Osidibe on the whole, he's normally quite strong, and obviously Gilead and Smallwood, you know what you're going to get for them. But Ador is a little bit different. He's more similar to a Chapman or a Poynton in that role, so he does provide you something different. He obviously gets our first goal, and it was a well-taken chance. The ball comes into the box. I think it was Halliday who crossed it in. Cook, I think, tries to control it, but it ends up being a really, really good pass. And Ador is there to tap home, slides it in under the keeper, and it's a really composed finish. I think he's at his second or his third goal so far this season. He's not really featured all too much under Graham Alexander, so it's great to see him back in the side, back scoring goals as well. But for me personally, he's very, very good on the ball. He works space very well. He's very good at using his body to manipulate defenders. He twists and turns, but then it's that final product. His crosses into the box, I thought, were quite poor and underwhelming. A lot of them really failing to get off the ground and causing Morecambe any real trouble. And Ador, for me, he does one good thing and then he might not necessarily get the next thing right. And again, he's a young player on a long-term contract, and I think he will get better as more time does go by. But I just feel like yesterday we didn't see enough from Clark Ador. And like I say, he's got the goal, and scoring goals is obviously massive because we need more of our midfielders to be contributing with goals. And I think he'll probably be the one to start against Stockport, in my opinion, to replace Emmanuel Osidibe. I'm not too sure what the situation is with Alex Patterson and how long he might potentially be out for, because I think it was only a slight knock. But like I say, we've got to be cautious about that. And with it being a quick turnaround, I think Ador is someone who could certainly fill in that role. Again, though, against Stockport County, is that the right game for Ador? Because with Alexander's system, he likes battlers and he likes people who are going to fight for it. and I'm not sure Clark Ador is someone who really wants to stick his foot in. There's very few players who I don't really think that about the team, so maybe you can allow someone like a Clark Ador to be in there, but Tyler Smith doesn't really strike me as that type of character. But you look at someone like a Smolden, a Gilead, who would partner him in that midfield. They could maybe do that sort of ground for him. But Ador, for me, had some good moments, had some frustrating moments, and overall, I have gone with a yellow box. I think a red would have obviously been far too harsh with him scoring the goal, and he did have some sort of impact on the game. He was much better than Osadibe, but I thought there were quite a few poor moments and decisions from Clark Ador, so that's why I balanced it out with a yellow box for him.
Yeah, I'd very much second that. I think his good moments definitely helped us change the game, but when you're coming on for Osadibe, that's always going to be a pretty. You can be quite average when you're replacing Osadibe and you're going to change the game. So I thought it was a good ride option. I think when you see what Walker and Gilly do on those sort of flanks when we've got the ball high, running in the channels, making those runs into sort of the deep penalty area and getting those pullbacks, I think he helped do that well and supported Richards, and that's probably why Richards probably grew into a game, because he had that player who can help him on the wide areas. And yeah, off the ball it is a bit weak, but on the ball, Silky Kenyon, and a good joy to watch. The ball on the right side, and he had a really tight a man were really tight to him. He turned him, and it was a great bit of play. And then he went back and played the simple pass, and that's a problem with these type of players, especially with these young academy players. But I think Barnsley have quite a good academy. They just don't seem to have that bit of raw flair that you see from a Bobby Poynton, because they're trained to just keep the ball and keep working and be composed on it like your Hughes teams were. And under Alexander, hopefully he'll be able to get that flair out of him, maybe a bit more confidence to take players on a bit more and show us what he's got.
I think that might come with him maybe getting more game time. He might have been a little bit rusty, obviously coming on at half time as well. But I thought overall he had a decent enough impact on the game, but I think he could have certainly provided a little bit more. But before we get into our two final boxes, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. And our penultimate box then of today's video is a green box for none other than Brad Halliday. We speak about him near enough every week, and it's pretty much every time a green box because he's absolutely outstanding. If this man has not signed a new contract within the next month, it's a criminal decision by the football club. I do not care what the policy is. He simply has to get a new contract. He's outstanding. He's just brilliant every single week. I thought the first half, he was one of our few players who was really trying to get us forward. He was putting in some good tackles defensively as well. And I've got to give credit to Morecambe. I thought in that first half, they hit us on the counter a number of times and they really did cause us a lot of problems. But there wasn't really many times where I thought, that's where Brad Halliday should be. Maybe on one occasion, but he actually then got back. He sprinted back from near enough their touchline on, their goalkeeper's touchline and sprinted all the way back, got the tackle in, and unfortunately did actually fall back to a Morecambe player, but I think we managed to just about defend that one. But Halliday, for me, especially in that second half, absolutely fantastic. The engine that he's got on him is brilliant. He obviously puts the cross in for our first goal. He scores the second goal as well. His first goal of the season. The goal that he scored last season was, I think it's fair to say he took a minor deflection, but this one was a brilliant finish from Halliday. I know he's tried to play it down himself. He was saying it was harder to miss than score, but on the volley, that could have come off his shin and gone wide, or he could have got under it and kicked it upwards. It could have gone over the crossbar. I think it was a really, really good controlled finish. Like we mentioned earlier, a great ball in from Kieran Kelly. But Halliday, he just gets better and better as each week goes by. He's slowly becoming one of the best fullbacks I've seen in my lifetime at this football club. I think he's absolutely exceptional playing on that right side. And how many times we mentioned it, the fact that he wasn't even playing at the start of the season, I don't think he started the reverse fixture. I think pretty sure Ugoke started at right wing back, but he's been absolutely exceptional and thoroughly deserves a green box. I think he's been just an absolute different revelation on that right hand side this season. I thought he was very good last year. This season he's taking it to another level and definitely deserves a green box for me. I think he's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, it was superb. It just doesn't put a foot wrong, does the basics right, but does it to another level where it just takes your breath away because of his levels of intensity. It's mind blowing. I don't know how he has the stamina to put that in week out and not pick up many injuries. Touch wood, because he had a big one at Fleetwood. So hopefully, he keeps that going. I probably just jinxed him there, but he needs a chant. we talk about him every week. And we don't have a chance for him. That man is becoming a Bradford City legend. I mean, if I'd probably say he's easily top 5 right backs of Bradford City's lifetime. I mean, I can't remember if Seth Pod were a right back or a left back. So he's probably in there if he's a right back. Derby, I liked McMahon, but you probably say balanced wise, he's probably a better footballer than him. So I probably have him in my top 5. So that makes him a legend. He needs a chant. He's a ginger cafu and he's incredible week in, week out. And he's a leader. We didn't have many leaders last season. I don't know if that's because players are adapting to the club, to the way that the club is and the fan base. I don't know, but I'd say you've now got Halliday. I'd say Kelly's becoming a bit of a leader and the character. You've got Gilliard, Smallwood's a leader, Andy Cook. So I'd say you've got about 5 or 6 leaders there who are starting. Walker, when he comes back, is a born leader. And then you've got Graham Alexander. Are these players now becoming this leadership qualities that you didn't see last season just because of Alexander? Hughes, maybe did he just not lead from the front last season? Or is it just because of they're just bringing out that character now by winning games? I mean, it's great to see you get these characters because we haven't had them.
Yeah, I certainly think Alexander is getting, the best out of him. I think he's really getting that grit in between all the players' teeth. I think Hughes for me was a little bit passive. The amount of times where we'd talk about him because he's sat on the touchline, sat in his chair with his arms folded, and that kind of reflects on the team because the team was then very passive. But Alexander is the complete opposite. He stood up for 90 minutes screaming at the players, coaching them through the game, and that is obviously a big boost for the players as well when they know they've constantly got the manager giving them information, but it's helpful information as well. There's not just saying pointless sound bites. It sounds like he's giving them some really, really good information. And for me personally, Alexander is light and day between Mike Hughes, especially for this level. Obviously, if we were in the Championship or the Premier League, you then have to change your style up. You can't always play Route 1. But at this level, it's the system and it's the football that works. And I think Alexander is hopefully the man who's finally going to get us out of this division. Whether it's this season or next year, I certainly do have the confidence in Alexander when he starts getting more and more of his own players in. But like I say, I think we've got a very, very good core at this moment in time. And Brad Halliday is certainly one of them. So that is why he definitely did deserve a green box. We'll move on then to our final box. This time is a yellow box for Matty Platt. Now, I thought Platt didn't really have his greatest game. I certainly don't think he was bad in the game. I think you've got to give credit to, I think it's Jordan Slew with the Morecambe striker who started in the game. I didn't think he was as effective as how he ended up proving to be. When I saw Michael Mellon was on the bench and was starting with Slew, I was obviously very happy with that because I'm a big, big fan of Michael Mellon. But Jordan Slew gave Matty Platt a torrid time in there. And I think maybe there's an argument that Platt had a poor enough game to potentially bring Ash Taylor back in because I thought Taylor looks really good under Graham Alexander so far. And I think his physicality, he's definitely a much more physical player than Matty Platt. But obviously Platt is a little bit more mobile. He's much quicker. But Platt, for me, the second goal, he's got to do much better to stop that cross. And the number of times where Jordan Slew was just backing into Platt, he was, grabbing his shirt, holding him off, and he was able to hold him and allow himself to pick a pass. And I think Platt should have, been much more aggressive, much more physical with it. And the few times where he tried to do that with Kelly, he really struggled to do so. And Kelly was going through the back of him. Tompkinson is slightly different. And I thought he could have had a green box yesterday. I thought he was really, really solid defensively once more. But Tompkinson isn't really a physical centre-half. He's much more in terms of, your pace, your agility, your recoveries and all that sort of stuff. And he's a very, very good ball-playing defender. But Matty Platt, for me, I certainly don't think he had his greatest game against Morecambe. Like I said, there is a potential argument that Ash Taylor might come in against Stockport County. But I certainly think Platt got bullied, in my opinion, by Jordan Slew. And fingers crossed that it's not something that does continue, because if Kyle Wotton plays on, I think, is it Friday against Stockport, he could cause Matty Platt a lot of problems. But that second goal for me, Platt should have done a lot better with, and that's why I've decided to go with a yellow box for our number 5.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that the second goal was his fault. I do think he's got to do more to stop that cross from coming in. Jordan Slew, he was an handful and he was a tough player for Platt, but I do feel like, when you've got those type of players, you've got to stand up to them. I think, he got the better of him more times than Platt did, but I feel like he was solid enough, Platt, against him. But like you say, he would fought for the goal. Whether Stubbs or Taylor replaces him in the next game, I don't think Alexander will do that. But whether you will, if you were a manager, I'm not sure I would. But it's an interesting one because him, Stubbs, and Taylor are all very similar players. Players who like to get in battles with the strikers, and players who aren't no nonsense centre backs. So, out of the better one out of those three, you'd probably say on their general Bradford career and careers in football in general, it's probably Sam Stubbs, and he's the fifth choice centre back at the minute. So they've all got to fight for the place, and I wouldn't be against any of them starting against Stockport because I think they're all pretty much level in terms of form and general career at the minute. But yeah, I do think he's solid enough at times, Platt. I don't think he has to be good on the ball when you've got Kelly and Tompkinson with him to provide good balance. Very, very calm players, and like I say, you saw them overlapping, creating crossing opportunities. But yeah, I think he's a solid enough player, Platt. Does he start against Stockport? Probably does for me.
Yeah, I think obviously, because you say we've got a lot of centre halves at the moment. We've Odesina returning in January as well. We're going to have 6 natural centre halves at the football club. I would say one definitely has to move on. Now, with what we've seen happen to Ryan East under Graham Alexander, we've obviously East turning that into a permanent move at Rochdale. Could that maybe happen with Odesina? But because his loan is only short term and he will definitely return in January, what might happen there? But I thought for me personally, Odesina looked quite good in January, and he's a very similar player to Jonathan Tompkinson. The fact Sam Stubbs can't even get on the bench at this moment in time as well is crazy. But recently, in his recent games that Sam Stubbs has played, I don't think he's done enough to really warrant playing in this team, which is crazy because last season he was one of our better players when he came in from Exeter. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. There's a lot of moving parts at this moment in time. Overall, it was a decent point to pick up when you go 2-0 down, and it was a pretty poor first half. The second half was much better on the balance of play. I think we just about deserved to win the game, but I certainly don't think it was a bad performance. There was a few players who weren't quite up to standard, but overall, not a bad point to take against a decent side. We've got a very tough game coming up against Stockport on that Friday night. The match preview for that will be coming out tomorrow, but we'll leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for us. If you could try and hit 80 likes, as we said at the start of today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in it down in the comment section down below on our 6 talking points from today's video. That being Emmanuel Sadibe, Lewis Richards, Kieran Kelly, Clark Ador, Brad Halliday, and also Matty Platt. Check out Korban's channel as well. The link to that is down in the description down below. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another video. Peace.